Yasodanandana vrajajana ranjana. Thank you. Yasodanandana vrajajana ranjana. Yamunatiravanachari. Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana vrajajana ranjana. Yasodanandana vrajajana ranjana. Yamunatiravanachari. Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana vrajajana ranjana. Yasodanandana vrajajana ranjana. Yasodanandana vrajajana ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Yam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privekacharya Stotra Satasya Srimad Abhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Yanite Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurum Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitan Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Siyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 56, chapter entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. dhvasta-māyā-guṇodarko, dhvasta-māyā-guṇodarko, niruddha-karaṇāśayaḥ, niruddha-karaṇāśayaḥ, nivartitākhilāhāra, nivartitākhilāhāra, āste sthāṇur ivācalaḥ, āste sthāṇur ivācalaḥ, tasyāntarāyo maivābhūḥ, tasyāntarāyo maivābhūḥ, sannyastākhila-karmaṇaḥ, sannyastākhila-karmaṇaḥ, dhvasta-māyā-guṇodarko, niruddha-karaṇāśayaḥ, nivartitākhilāhāra, āste sthāṇur ivācalaḥ, tasyāntarāyo maivābhūḥ, sannyastākhila-karmaṇaḥ. Bolo. niruddha-karaṇāśayaḥ, nivartitākhilāhāra, āste sthāṇur ivācalaḥ, tasyāntarāyo maivābhūḥ, sannyastākhila-karmaṇaḥ, dhvasta-māyā-guṇodarko, niruddha-karaṇāśayaḥ, nivartitākhilāhāra, āste sthāṇur ivācalaḥ, tasyāntarāyo maivābhūḥ, sannyastākhila-karmaṇaḥ. Ladies. Okay. Dhvasta, being destroyed. Māyā-guṇa, the modes of nature, of material nature. Udarkaḥ, aftereffects. Niruddha, being suspended. Karaṇa-āśayaḥ, the senses and the mind. Nivartita, stopped. Akhila, all. Āhāraḥ, food for the senses. Āste is sitting. Sthāṇuḥ, immovable. Like. Acalaḥ, fixed. Tasya, his. Antarāyaḥ, hindrances. Maivābhūḥ, never like that. Abhūḥ, be. Sannyasta, renounced. Akhila, all sorts. karmaṇaḥ, material duties. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. He will have, yes, to give you the context, this verse is describing the process that Dhritarashtra was following in order to leave his body. Okay? It's Ashtanga Yoga. These few verses, 4 verses describing this is one of them. He will have to suspend all the actions of the senses, even from the outside. And he will have to be impervious to interactions of the senses, which are influenced by the modes of material nature. After renouncing all material duties, he must become immovably established beyond all sources of hindrances on the path. Narada Muni speaking, by the way. Purport. Dhritarashtra had attained by the yogic process the stage of negation of all sorts of material reaction. The effects of the material modes of nature draw the victim to indefatigable desires of enjoying matter, but one can escape such false enjoyment by the yogic process. So what is the effects of the modes of nature? Huh? Go ahead. Yeah, but according to this purport. Yeah, it's an important point, isn't it? When you are affected by the modes, what is the result? Indefatigable desires. Prabhupada uses some far out words. Indefatigable desires for enjoying matter. So if we are feeling that in our hearts, guess who are we under the influence of? The material modes of nature. Okay? And how can one escape such false enjoyment? According to the purport, I just read it. Thank you. By the yogic process. Every sense is always busy in searching for its food, and thus the conditioned soul is assaulted from all sides and has no chance to become steady in any pursuit. Maharaj Yudhishthira was advised by Narada not to disturb his uncle by attempting to bring him back home. He was now beyond the attraction of anything material. The material modes of nature, the gunas, have their different modes of activities, but above the material modes of nature is a spiritual mode which is absolute. Nirguna means without reaction. The spiritual mode and its effect are identical. Therefore, the spiritual quality is distinguished from its material counterpart by the word nirguna. After complete suspension of the material modes of nature, one is admitted to the spiritual sphere. An action dictated by the spiritual modes is called devotional service or bhakti. Bhakti is therefore nirguna, attained by direct contact with the Absolute. So the context of this verse is Dhritarashtra. He has been enlightened by Vidura. Vidura has given him like very kind of bold, very heavy preaching to make him detach from material life. And Dhritarashtra is famous for his blindness, not just his material blindness, but his spiritual blindness. And what was causing his blindness? His attachment. He was so attached. He wanted the kingdom so much. This Purusha Bhav. I will enjoy the kingdom. I will be the controller. Everything will be under my jurisdiction. And he had been warned and instructed by so many That was just the last Vidura. But previously, he had been given so many indications that the path he was choosing was a path of ruination. He couldn't take it. At one point, Maitreya came and he was instructing them, the Kauravas, and Duryodhana, he kind of, to vent his anger, he kind of, beat his thighs. And Maitreya said, this, because you have done this will be the cause of your death. It was like a curse. And Dhritarashtra knew that Maitreya was a powerful sage. So it was already predetermined that Duryodhana will die. Still, he will not give the kingdom back to the Pandavas. Then Krishna came, and Krishna also tried to instruct him. Still, he couldn't take the advice. Then Vyasadeva came. Right? I mean, you're getting the Supreme Lord coming to you to tell you. I mean, we are all we have a bit of Dhritarashtra in our own consciousness, right? So Vyasadeva came and he said, actually, I'll give you eyes to see. So you can see the battle now. And Dhritarashtra said, I don't want to see my sons die. You give vision to Sanjaya, and then I will see the battle through Sanjaya. And that's how we hear the Bhagavad Gita. Sanjaya is a conversation also between Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra, right? Conversation described by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. And even and then at the beginning of the battle, what did Dhritarashtra ask? He asked, when they assembled at Kurukshetra, what did they do? But what are people supposed to do when they are meeting for a big war? The answer is pretty obvious, right? They're going to fight. It's like, and they sat in front of the feast. So what did they do? They obviously ate it, right? So they said that he said that he was still fearful that because of the influence of the place, Kurukshetra, it was a saintly place, that they may agree for some peace. See, he wanted the war. Despite that he had been warned that this will be the cause of, you will lose. And even he heard the whole Bhagavad Gita, right? He heard it directly from Sanjaya. He was describing it live, right? Like we're getting it recorded, but he was getting it live by transcendental vision of Sanjaya. And still he could not understand the import of the Gita. And at the end, Sanjaya said that wherever there is Krishna and Arjuna, there will always be victory, opulence. So this was the condition of Dhritarashtra. This is a condition of the materially conditioned soul, that even though we may hear so many good instructions, because of attachment, blindness, cannot give it up. And we cannot see the reality. You see, the sages are coming to show us how our reality, and I'm saying our reality, our circumstances, how they're actually helping us to be Krishna conscious. That's seeing the reality. The reality is Krishna and his energies. And the reality is that we are his servants. That's the reality. We are meant to be engaged in his service. That's the absolute reality. And the reality is that no material situation is everlasting. We'll be kicked out of any material situation. The only situation is permanent is when we actually, develop a relationship with Krishna and then we serve him. That's the only situation we cannot be kicked out. But where, the materially conditioned soul, he holds on to create his own kind of, castle in the air where I can enjoy material life, expecting that, yes, I will find a materially stable situation in which I'm going to be happy. and satisfied. And it's just by default, it's not possible. I mean, sometimes it's like we say, Hare Krishna people are like a negative, but it's the reality. It's really the reality. It doesn't mean that we cannot find, a situation which is favorable for our practice of Krishna consciousness. That's the reality. The reality is that we should, arrange our life in a way which is going to be conducive for our advancement in Krishna consciousness. Then we are not falling into Maya, because everything that the Lord is providing for us is being engaged in His service. And that's the principle of, karma yoga, buddhi yoga, or acting in Krishna consciousness. Seeing how I can engage my work, which may be selfishly motivated to some extent, because I am trying to fulfill my desires in this world, but I am doing them in connection with Krishna. So therefore, I am becoming free from the illusion that things are separate from the Lord, that I am the independent controller and the independent enjoyer. So all the preaching that Vidura was doing to Dhritarashtra, which is a far-out chapter, this chapter is very dear to the sannyasis, I remember Jayadvaita Swami was saying that, because it's like, Vidura is just like destroying all the false hopes of Vidura. He's just there, in the kingdom. He's so attached to it that he's living in the same house that Bhima is living. Bhima had killed all of his sons. And Bhima, even though Yudhishthira, he was very kind towards his uncle Dhritarashtra, and in fact, he told everybody that they should address Dhritarashtra as the king. Like he was the king, even though Yudhishthira had, after the battle, he was the person chosen, but he said, you treat him like the king. But Bhima could not accept this. And Bhima will often say things in the palace to wind him up and to insult him. He say, like, with these arms, I kill all the sons of Dhritarashtra in his presence, So Dhritarashtra was like really, suffering in that, but still attached to that situation. He couldn't just leave. So we should see that when we are in a, how material attachment, how we are embarrassed by material attachment. You think about it. We're controlled by material attachments, which are based on an illusion. And what is the illusion? I am the controller. I am the enjoyer. This world is meant for my pleasure. And the reality is what Vidura is saying. You think, and it's very interesting in this chapter, because we are not only hearing the preaching of Vidura to Dhritarashtra, but then what happened was that after Dhritarashtra was preached by Vidura, he left for the Himalayas, and he left without saying anything to anyone. And then Sanjaya was the first one who noticed, and he was like really disturbed. I've been cheated. My master has left him with Gandhari and never said anything. And then Yudhishthira came, and Yudhishthira was looking for him and said, where is my uncle? Where is my uncle? And he was so disturbed. And Vidura, again, is preaching to him. He said, you think you can protect him? You think that, you are in control? You think that these people are under your care, that you can do anything? So you cannot do anything. And if you're worrying about his sustenance, there's that famous verse that, every living entity is food for another. If you think that you can provide the food, this is already being arranged by the Lord. He is the actual provider. He is the actual carer, the actual maintainer. And then he says, if you're worrying about, if you wanting to go and get him, he will die in 5 days. He will leave his body in 5 days. By what process? By this process. He had actually now, and you want to go for Gandhari? He said Gandhari will also join him in the flames. So, you know, and then Vidura and Dhritarashtra, what happened was that after having been preached like that, he actually became detached from material affection. And he engaged in this process of Ashtanga yoga, which is described here through pranayama, eating only once a day, and performing some tapasya, fixing the mind on the super soul. And he was able to attain salvation. And Vidura was very happy about this. But the thing is that even though he had such association of Vidura, such a great soul, he's one of the speakers of the Bhagavatam, still all he could attain was impersonal liberation. So why did he not attain prema? Why did he not attain the ultimate goal? Any thoughts? Because he was offensive to the Pandavas. Huh? He was offensive. So this is perhaps one of the most important lessons of all this chapter, that Dhritarashtra, despite the fact that, you know, he had been, you know, Vidura was giving him such powerful preaching at the end, he came, and was such an exalted personality, because he had an offensive mentality, he did not attain prema. So how serious are the effects of Vaishnava aparadh? How serious it is? Vidura was happy. Why? Because he was destined to go to hell. By his preaching, he perfected his life in the sense that he attained liberation. So at least he freed him from that. Because the result of committing Vaishnava aparadh is hell. And what is Vaishnava aparadh? You know, there is six types of Vaishnava aparadh. Let's see if we can remember them. The heaviest one is to kill. Someone said kill? Yeah, to kill a Vaishnava. Obviously to blaspheme a Vaishnava. Not being jolly, not being happy when one sees a Vaishnava. Not paying obeisances, yeah. 2 more. Become angry at a Vaishnava, and to hold some kind of enmity to a Vaishnava. These 6 types, if asat is one will fall down and will go to hell. How serious is this? Go to hell. Like when Lord Chaitanya, he was speaking about the mad elephant offense. And some of the devotees were getting heavy reactions. He said, well, you're just getting a little token reaction. You will burn in hell for many lifetimes after this. So, it is interesting because I find that this is very relevant in the current context, because we find, I mean, I don't know if it's my own perception, but nowadays there is so many different kind of, even within our movement, so many different opinions, you know. And sometimes the Vaishnavas become divided because of different opinions, and they commit Vaishnava aparadh. And I mean, we're seeing it. We may be affected by this. Most likely we are being affected by this. It's Kali, the age of Kali. What is the age of Kali? The age of quarrel. So, you know, sometimes there is some, you know, you could say like topic or some hot topic, some controversial thing that is going on. Should we get vaccine? Should we not get vaccine? Should we edit the books? Not edit the books? You know, you name it. So many of these things. And it's not that we have to agree with each other. We have our own independent, way of thinking, and we should, be thoughtful enough to make the right decision and see what is actually correct. But when we hold negative attitudes towards devotees who may not share the same view that we have, then we are getting into this Vaishnava parat, Is it worth? Yes? Is it worth to get into Vaishnava parat? Okay. It's not worthy. Then we become part of, we're trapped by Maya, basically. We think that we're so intelligent that we worked it out, and these people, they're not so intelligent and they haven't worked it out, right? I think that my opinion is better than their opinion, and we develop some kind of, antagonistic mentality. But that means that we are, being influenced by the modes of material nature. Because the spiritual nature, it tends to unite. It doesn't, the material nature, what is it, the technique when you want to conquer? Divide and conquer, right? Divide and conquer. So if we see that that's happening in our families, in our, with our friends, in our communities, in our movement, in the world, then Maya is penetrated. And as devotees, we should rise above all these things and apply really serious Krishna consciousness. And whenever we're feeling some kind of heat, because something is being said, and we should stop for a second and think, where is the heat coming from? Where is the anger coming from? Is it actually the person who said that was causing the anger? Or is the anger within me? Is the frustration within me? It's within us, right? And why am I feeling like this? If this person wants to think in a different way, why am I so wound up about it? Why? Attachment. What did you say? Controllership mentality, yeah. Attachment. It's attachment. It's some illusion. Some illusion. But what will be the appropriate Vaishnava approach? We should have compassion, right? I mean, that may be even too high, but that's the ideal, right? We should have compassion. Who knows what the person is going through? Who knows what the person has said? Who knows what the person, so many things. We should have that kind of Vaishnava compassion. And if we're going to have that Vaishnava compassion, at least we should keep the distance, so that we don't commit Vaishnava parat. The scripture is so heavy that it says that if you hear, and it's not just like these six, we're talking about these six, they're not easy, right? I remember when the first time I heard that, that's impossible. That's how aparadi I am. Because it's like, maybe because I'm coming from Spain, Spanish people are like heated, How can you say like that, You see, when Spanish people are eating, lunch is also from Latin America. The volume of the conversation is really loud. Wow, wow, wow. So, to actually maintain a kind of, attitude that you are jolly to see a Vaishnava even though he disagrees with you, it's kind of, it's foreign for some of us, in the culture that we've been brought up, But actually, that's Vaishnava culture. Vaishnava culture means that we don't maintain any animosity towards any Vaishnava. And if there is an animosity in our hearts, we need to look in within and see where is the animosity coming from. And I get to get rid of it, clear it out. Beg Krishna, please, you let me remove this from my heart. And you have to you have to face those things. Because we run away from it, but actually face it and see, this is there. I actually have, and generally what it is at the bottom line is envy. Some form of envy is there. And how do we overcome the envy? Through service, right? Praising that person, trying to see the good that is there. And prayer to Krishna that actually, Krishna, I'm really getting caught with this, because I'm thinking that this person is not nice, or doesn't deserve my respect because the way he's speaking. You please help me to deal with this. Because it's not an easy thing, it's a lot of introspection going on. Does it resonate with you what I'm talking about, or is it only me that goes through these things? Do you find yourself sometimes like having some negative attitude towards the devotee? No? Do you find yourself sometimes having negative attitudes towards another devotee? I'm feeling really demoniac here now. Maybe I'm the only one sitting here on the asana. You should come and give class. Then these things are there, right? And even if we are so saintly that we are not having that, then do we hear sometimes the word is being criticized? And what is the advice, the recommendation of the Shastra? First of all, cut his tongue. And if you are not able to cut his tongue, what do? You walk away. And he said, if you cannot walk away, what do? Commit suicide. So how serious is this, So that's why they say that the devotee is only afraid of one thing. He's afraid of committing Vaishnava aparadh. So here we have the example of Dhritarashtra able to take up bhakti. Because within his heart, he has animosity towards the Pandavas. So another important element with devotional service, and which you have this very clear, in every moment, every practice that we're doing, that is a privilege, is mercy. We're not entitled to it. We're not entitled. We don't deserve it. It's only by Krishna's mercy. And how that mercy comes? Through his devotees. So you can cheer, you can chant, you can do so many sadhanas. If you don't get Krishna's mercy, you will not get bhakti. You will not get devotion. It's a descending process. So we are in that spirit that we're beggars. We want to get that mercy from the Lord. The moment we place ourselves in an offensive mentality, we're blocking that. We're closing the door. And particularly when we develop some kind of negative attitude towards another devotee, we're closing that door. And usually what it is, even from the material perspective, they say that when you see someone who is, and you don't like him, usually there is something in that person that is within you. And that's why you're not liking him. You find sometimes there may be some devotee, you don't even speak to him or her. And it's like, feel irritated, right? Maybe someone there, something there that is not, is within you, and you're kind of you don't want to admit it. So it is very, very important to see how, in order for us to give up our material conceptions, we need the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And if we are not willing to take the instruction of the Vaishnavas, then we will not be able to give up our material conceptions. And that's exactly what happened to Dhritarashtra. He was not able to take the advice, no matter what they tell him. And this is like us. It's like, I always remember of the famous story when the disciple goes to the guru and he says, Guru Maharaj, Maya is so heavy. She won't let me go. She won't let me go. And the Guru looks at the disciple. He runs out of the ashram, grabs a tree. Let me go, let me go, let me go. We're like holding on to, and like, but Prabhu, I'm willing to change. I want to do whatever is required. Okay, do like this. Not that. I'll do everything else, but I won't do that. You know? Give up the kingdom. Anything else bad. Okay, give them 5 villages. No. Not even enough land to put a pin on it. That was the deal. That was the Kauravas, how they responded. So also it's encouraging to see that Dhritarashtra was given so many opportunities. So Krishna is giving us also so many opportunities. But I think it's very important that in order for us to receive that mercy and to be able to see it, to perceive it, that we cultivate this culture of non-criticism, of non-envy. And even if someone has a different opinion, you know, you may debate, I'm not the right word is debate, but you may discuss it with them, but always having a respectful attitude. And another point that comes with this thing is that even though Vidura had preached to Dhritarashtra about, you know, the futility of material life and don't be attached, we cannot be together forever. Even Vidura, when Dhritarashtra left, he was affected. He was sad that he had left. So we have those things. We have, like, on one side is the philosophy, on the other side is the sentiment. You know, we are human beings. He was affected. He was sad that his, brother had left. So it just goes to show how fine, how difficult it is to not get caught. I'm not saying that Vidura got caught, but I'm just saying that, while we are in a material situation, we're bound to get affected and afflicted by the material life. So how difficult, how careful we have to be in our spiritual practices. And the most important thing is that we keep, like, the line, the channels of mercy open through with the devotees. The moment that we begin to shut them down, to cut them close, then that's the beginning of the end. Generally, the devotees, may have difficulty with their sadhana or whatever, but if they can maintain the association of the devotees, they go on, right? But as soon as the devotees develop some kind of critical mentality, they may last for some time, but we should see what the scripture is saying, the heavy warnings. Hell is what is awaiting. Okay, so I'll stop here. Is there any questions? Yes, Prabhu? Just wait for the mic. Just repeat again. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for your very introspective class. Often, I saw in my case and other devotees' case that Vaishnava offense is many times justified by the like some qualities of the Brahman Kshatriya mentioned in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Like, for example, a devotee may not have good communication skill, so he may be, in the name of being straightforward, insult the Vaishnavas, and he may justify that he is a Brahmana, he speaks the truth. And similarly, all the 6 types of offenses you mentioned, sometimes a manager, a devotee who is serving as a manager, may do all these 6 types of offenses in the management, and he may justify it like that he is being Kshatriya. So can you please throw some light on this type of justification which happens in our movement or in any spiritual society at large? Thank you.
Is Vaishnava aparad ever justified or justifiable? No. So everybody, just to give a little benefit of credit to us and hope, right? That obviously Krishna is a person and he knows our conditioning, he knows our weaknesses. Some people may be mentally disturbed, psychologically, and they have that, and Krishna, he's caring for us and he's giving us opportunity for rectification. But the standard is the same. We should follow that standard that is given in the scripture. And while there may be some, you could say like repeated, we may be giving opportunities again and again, but not that we just make that the standard, that because I'm a very straightforward person, I can tell that you're wrong and you are an unqualified person and this or that. I had that experience lately anyway. But I was just thinking, well, being straightforward doesn't mean that you have to be harsh and insulting, Being straightforward means that you may express what is in your heart and you may say, well, actually, Prabhu, I disagree with you. And I'm not seeing things in the same perspective that you're seeing it. And, this is how, you are, revealing your heart, but not that you say you're a fool, you're this, you're that, you're unqualified. I mean, that's not being straight, that's being disrespectful. Even in the material circles, that will be considered inappropriate. Never mind Vaishnava culture, which is the most refined culture. You see, and this is the beauty of Vaishnavism. At least that's what we are attracted, right? Prabhupada's refinement, how he dealt with all kinds of people, parents of devotees, with materialists, with reporters, and even though you can say he will use like heavy words, but like one time Giriraj Maharaj, I think it was Giriraj Maharaj, and someone was with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, I think it was in Los Angeles, Prabhupada have seen so many different types of people, and at the end one of the devotees says, Prabhupada, everybody loves you. And Prabhupada said, yes, because I love everyone. So if we are in a position of being a manager, or like, we should be very careful, where is the platform where I am coming from? I am coming from a platform of love. I am coming from a platform of actually seeking the welfare of this person that I am dealing with. I am coming from a platform of seeing the welfare of the community, or I am coming from a platform of what I want. Or I'm coming from a platform of anger. It's quite painful to actually see why am I, that's what I was saying to you at the beginning in the class, right? I was saying, why am I responding in this way? Am I responding because my desires have not been fulfilled? And that's why I'm becoming angry at this person who happens to be working under my supervision? You know what I'm saying? So these people who are like managers, who are like, or kshatriyas, or, we have to cultivate an attitude of respect, of love, of being a well-wisher of the person. And when that relationship is established, it may be the case, if I have a close relationship with Prabhu here, we're good friends through many things that I have done for him in the past, maybe as a manager, then if I tell him one day, hey, you lazy bug, come on, get going, it's not gonna be an offense, right? Because it's love there. So it's all based on the level of relationship that we have. But if we don't have a relationship, and on the top of not having that good relationship, that you don't know what's going on in that person's life, and you're coming with like a ton of bricks, telling that person that you should do like this, you should do like that, and you're not just being straightforward. I'm a kshatriya. It's like, is that making sense? More?
Well, basically, like I was reflecting that how Pandavas always wanted peace. They were Kshatriyas, real Kshatriyas. Dhritarashtra was also Kshatriya, but he wanted war. So many times, like it's being seen that like we have this fighting tendency amongst us because of the Kali Yuga, and it is being justified that we are being Kshatriyas, so we can fight.
But you can see the response of the Pandavas, despite the fact that they were entitled to the kingdom, despite the fact that Krishna was on their side, despite the fact, they say, okay, you just give us 5 villages in exchange of the whole world. That's a Vaishnava. And because of that, when Krishna was invited for prasadam at Duryodhana's place, he didn't want to take it. I don't want to take this. So I wanted to make that point, and I forgot that. I made the point, but like Krishna says that he gives bhakti only the one that he chooses. It's not by austerities, it's not by anything. Not by charity, not by your sadhana. You cannot get bhava by sadhana, even though it's the object of sadhana, is when the Lord chooses to give you that. So how careful we have to be with those who are dear to the Lord, that Krishna considers them higher or better than them. So in this case, the Pandavas had become more dear to Krishna than he himself. And because of that, then the Dhritarashtra didn't get the mercy at the end. That's the ultimate thing that happened. So there are so many examples there, like Parikshit Maharaj. Did he retaliate against Shringi? Did he say, you immature, silly boy, just go home, He took the challenge, right? Vidura? Did Vidura retaliate to Duryodhana? Also, you silly boy, you just acting like a kid. Grow up. Don't you know who I am? I'm a Kshatriya. No, I'm a Sudra. And he says, he also saw, and this is the point that I think kind of brings the whole thing together, okay, for us as devotees. And Prabhupada explains in a purport in the Bhagavatam that the confidential devotees of the Lord see a benedictory action in every unfavorable situation, a benediction in every unfavorable thing that happens in our lives. That's the reality, that we should see how this situation is helping me in my Krishna consciousness. So in the case that a devotee being nasty to us, or a devotee which is not like, behaving properly, we should see how that is going to help me in my Krishna consciousness. Not how can I ruin my Krishna consciousness by, fighting back. I remember many years back, I was in a difficult situation in the temple where I was, and it was a lot of, biting and fighting. And I remember I asked one senior Vaishnava, and he said to me, when devotees come to you without Krishna consciousness, how do you respond? With what? With Krishna consciousness. Yeah, you don't, 2 wrongs don't make 1 right, basically. But somehow when someone comes to us like, a bad way, then when someone comes to you in a bad way, you respond with Krishna consciousness. It's not easy, but that's the price. That's what makes the devotee a Vaishnava. There was one time, I'll finish with this. Well, no, I cannot finish with that. I'm over time. Okay, we'll leave it for next time. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granta Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitya Gaura Premanande. Thank you very much. Hare Bol.